Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming, and welcome to today's webinar on Barefoot computing with me, Sarah Zaman as your host, and John Chippendall as your presenter, who I'll shortly introduce. I'm one of the CAS community outreach managers responsible for overseeing communities and community leaders up in the North East, Cumbria and North Yorkshire. This webinar is part of the CAS Virtual Showcase, which is a 2-week window of webinars designed to support the CAS community. During this session, please use the question window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. All attendees are in listen-only mode. The top of the window has an orange rectangle which can be expanded or collapsed. If you're using social media today, and we'd love you to, the hashtag for the event is #CAS Virtual 20, and I'll put that in the chat as well. So I'll hand over to John. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everybody. I think you can see me in the camera there, and you should be able to see my PowerPoint as well. Oh, I've suddenly appeared, so I can see myself in the camera. So just before we get started, we've got about 45 minutes this morning. Just before we get started, you should have all had an email to say, please, can you sign up if you haven't already done so for a Barefoot account for this morning's session. So can you all, a bit of prep before we get started, get signed into your barefootcomputing.org account. If you've got a Scratch account as well, get signed into that. And can you get a piece of paper and pen or pencil ready? I'm sure you've probably got that already, but if you could grab one of those, and can you note down my email address, because I'm going to try, and as we go through, this is going to be a hands-on, doing a little bit of programming. I'm going to get you to try and share what you are creating with me, and one of the ways we might be able to do that is by you emailing it in. So just note that down there. So if you want to ask questions at all as we go, please pop your questions into the question box in GoToWebinar. The chat box is a sort of one-way chat. We'll be able to, Sarah and I will be able to share links and stuff, information with you in that. But if you want to contact us, if you put questions in the question box. There are 3 handouts as well for today's session, all in the handouts box. So if you go into there, and you will see Camel Chatter, Camels Come Dancing, and Camels Conundrum, 3 PDFs. So if you can download those, you don't need to print them, you just need to be able to see them. But I've got them here anyway. I'm going to be holding them up to the camera, etc. So yeah, I think that's all we need to do to get started. I'll just give it another moment in case people are noting down my email. In fact, let's pop that in the chat for you as well here. There we go. And we will make a start. So welcome to this, a Barefoot programming workshop. Really excited to be delivering this morning as part of the CAS Virtual Showcase. And oh, is this going to play ball? Yes, there we go. So what we're going to be doing this morning is we're going to be looking at reading and writing Scratch code. So this is this workshop is nicknamed Over the Hump workshop, because it's all about getting over the hump, taking first steps in reading and writing Scratch code and exemplifying some of the pedagogical approaches to teaching programming as we go through. So this is the second of the Barefoot workshops. The first one, the computational thinking workshop, we've delivered to tens of thousands of teachers and had lots of great positive feedback on it. And we always got asked whether we had one for programming and teaching Scratch or teaching to program in Scratch, which led to the development of this workshop. So it appears I have to use the arrows here. A little bit of information just before we start about the Barefoot program. So it's a national project to support teachers primarily with computer science in primary. So if we look at the curriculum, probably where it breaks down into computer science, digital literacy, and IT. The majority of our resources are targeting computer science. We are doing more resources more recently in IT and digital literacy as well. It was originally established by the Department for Education, and it's since been endorsed by Education Scotland, the Welsh Government, Department of Education in Northern Ireland, and it's primarily made up of free, high-quality resources, practical cross-curricular computer science resources to teach in primary schools, and workshops such as this one. We also have self-teach materials, so sort of concept guides for teachers exploring all the key kind of concepts in primary computing, and it's developed by teachers like myself. So I still teach at Cromston Lane Primary School in Manchester, and it's for teachers. So that's a little bit about the Barefoot programme. So before we get into the workshop, I'm just going to keep kind of monitoring. I know Sarah's doing this for me as well, but I'm just going to keep checking on any questions, etc. Make sure everybody's happy. Do fire questions in there as we go through. So what is programming as a first step? Good first step to start here this morning. Barefoot defines programming as a two-step process. So first of all, we have a design, including an algorithm. So I've got an example here. In this example, we're going to do this example as a code reading and writing activity this morning. We are creating an animation of a camel telling a hilarious joke, camel-based joke, as you can see there. Now, what we do is, if we're doing programming, we start by actually creating a design for our program. So you can see there, we've got a storyboard, we've got a bit of a sketch of the sprite, the thing that we're going to code in Scratch, saying what the camel says. That represents our algorithm. It's a sequence showing what's going to happen in our program. We then take that algorithm and we go and implement it as code. So we go to Scratch, and on the right hand side here you can see that we have implemented that algorithm as code. We don't now call it an algorithm, that's our code, it's our program. But we have created that based on the algorithm that we designed. So really important slide this, which is why we've got it in straight at the beginning here, this two-step process. Because often, you know, when I'm working with different schools and stuff, sometimes you don't see so much of the design stage. We don't see algorithms being created, people are going straight to just coding, which is fine sometimes, particularly if we're sort of exploring a new programming language and we're just tinkering with it and seeing what it can do. But we really want to move people through to experience of this two-step process. And likewise, the other way around, actually, sometimes we can do lots of unplugged activities which are operating in this design and algorithm creation stage, and we never go through to coding that. And we want people to realize how these two relate to one another. So the activities we're going to do today are going to be programming activities, which means we're going to do a little bit of this and then a little bit of this. Okay, so let's move on. Now, in the national curriculum, looking at Key Stage 2, and I'm just checking on the questions, and we're looking okay. The Key Stage 2 curriculum actually sets out the big three constructs that pupils need to have experience of, to develop their understanding of and learn how to apply when they're coding. And these are sequence, selection, and repetition. So you'll see there I've highlighted kind of where in the curriculum it appears, but it's in Key Stage 2. It says very clearly pupils need to use sequence, selection, and repetition in programs. Now, these are like the three most important Lego brick building blocks for pretty much any program. If you drill down into the code of pretty much any program, whether that be a simple Scratch program, that animation that pupils in primary schools have created, or something more complex like the code of the PowerPoint package that I'm using to present from, you will find these building blocks. You will find either sequences of code, repetition, bits of code looping over, or selection. And we're going to look at these today, which is where we can get our code to flow, the flow of our program to go down different paths depending on whether or not conditions are met. So really, really important, these three. So we've structured this workshop around these three. And for each one, we're going to do a little bit of code reading and a little bit of code writing. And I think that brings me on to objectives here. I'll come back to that in a second. Yeah, so just with the same as learning any other language, and Scratch is a programming language, we need to learn a little bit of code reading and code writing, and often our reading can precede our writing. But in schools, more often than not, when we're teaching programming, we find ourselves going straight to the code writing stage, jumping onto the computers and trying to create programs. But I mentioned at the beginning, I want to use this workshop as an opportunity to share pedagogical approaches for teaching programming in primary schools, and one of them is not to neglect code reading. And actually, on that point, this afternoon, please do join me at 2:30, where Ben Davis, a fantastic CAS community leader in the Northwest, will be running a code reading in primary schools session. So still get yourself booked on that if you haven't already. I'm moderating that one, really looking forward to it. So we're going to do a bit of code reading and writing relating to sequence, selection, and repetition. And I'm going to get you involved. So let's make a start here. Sequence, first of all. So really straightforward. And there's a bit of a pun there, isn't there? Straightforward. Sequence is just arranging instructions for algorithms and programs in a particular order, a sequence of them. And what I have here, and this is our first activity to do together this morning, I have 3 bits of segments of Scratch code at the bottom here, okay? And I'm hoping that you can see these okay. I guess it depends a little bit on the size of the device you're accessing from, but we have 3 screenshots of Scratch code. They are all sequences of code. The program is run, and it runs through each of the commands in sequence. And at the top, I have 3 outputs captured from a Scratch program, and this is a matching activity. I would like you to read through the code and use your logical reasoning to match the code at the bottom with the outputs at the top. Now, what I want you to do is note down on a piece of paper which matches with which, because in just a moment, I'm going to launch a poll with 3 possible answers, and you have to select the right one. So I'm going to give you a minute or so to work out which you think matches to which, and then we will launch the poll. And as you're doing that, I'll just check if we have any questions that's come through. It's all looking good. I think, has it frozen?
No, it hasn't. And I'm on your questions.
Yeah, it just frozen on my screen. Okay, so another 10 seconds or so, just to note down 1 equals, 2 equals, 3 equals, whichever you think it is. And right, let's go for it. Let's launch the poll. So here we go. Sequence code reading, launch the poll, and here you go. Have a go at voting for which of these you believe is the correct matching. Oh, and I can see the votes flowing in. Oh, interesting. I'll just give it another thank you to everyone that's voted. Nearly got everyone. There's definitely a variation in our thinking this morning. Just give it another 5 seconds or so. That's it. Brilliant. 3, 2, 1, and the poll is closed. Here we go. here are the results. There we go. And I'm very pleased to say that the majority of you got that correct this morning. It's the second one there. And let's just talk through a little bit of the logic of how we might have worked that out. Do I need to hide the results to do this? Yes, I do. So you might have noticed, some of you that, just try and apologies, here we go. That the code for, oh, there we go, let's try again. The code for A and B is quite similar in terms of what the camel is saying, and you might have identified actually that the only difference is that the code for A has two direction blocks, one that points it to the right and then one to the left, and whereas the code for B, if we run through, if we trace through, we realize that it sets the direction at the beginning and then doesn't change it. So that can help us work out actually that it's is it 1 that matches to B? Yes, it is, and it's 2. Sorry, it's 3 that matches to A. So those two match, and it's the number 3 that changes direction. And then once you've got those, obviously you can say that it's number 2 matches to C. I confused myself a little bit there, so I hope I got that right. But the majority of you did, so well done. So that's an example of a code reading activity that we can do. Now we're going to do a code writing activity this time. So let me just come off of here and pull that up as well. Right, so I can see myself. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to now have a go at this. Now, I'm conscious of time this morning. We might not be able to get through all 3 activities this morning, but you will be able to access the resources. You've already got the handouts to do the code writing activities, and I'm about to show you how to get to the Scratch files to do the code writing activities. So if we don't get through them all this morning, then you can go and have a tinker with them after the session. But what we're going to do is we are going to have a go at this ourselves. We're going to use the handout, and even though you haven't printed it, you can see we simply have a part completed algorithm on there. So I'm sure in 30 seconds or so on the piece of paper that you've got in front of you, you can do a sketch and you can write out the algorithm for what your camel is going to say in your program. And then I'm going to show you now how to access the part completed Scratch file for this. I would normally show a video at this point, but the video is of me, and as I am describing what I am saying in the video, we'll just go with this explanation. But if anybody wants to use these resources to deliver staff training in their school, then we will provide you the videos, the instructional videos and stuff. So, but let me just show you now how to access the Scratch file to have a go at code writing activity this morning. First thing we need to do, please can you all write down this code? This is the code for your access on the Barefoot website. So hopefully you can all see that. So just make a note of that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Barefoot. Can you see my screen, Sarah? Is that all right?
Yes, I can.
Right, brilliant, thank you. So this is why I wanted you to sign up, because you need to log into Barefoot. So you just log in, and then at the screen that you land on, if you scroll right down to the bottom here, you will see towards the bottom of the web page we have a little arrow and it says attendance. So I want you to click on attendance, and this is where we have to put in our workshop code. So our workshop code this morning was 82940. So I'm going to submit that, and then we are taken to this page, and we have 3 example starter Scratch files this morning. So the first thing we're going to click on is Camel Chatter, and that will then open up Scratch for us. And we click See Inside. Now, again, in terms of pedagogical approaches here, what we've done is provided some starter blocks, some code as a way of scaffolding. So we model in here how we potentially work with pupils to get them started. Other ways, with some of the other files that we've got, we might provide a completed program that pupils can then pull apart and start to modify and remix. But here we've just got a couple of examples of the code that you would use, types of code that you would use to implement your algorithm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break from talking for just a couple of minutes, and I'm going to ask you to have a go briefly where you are at sketching out a quick algorithm and then implementing that as code in Scratch. And then if anybody has a Scratch account and you've actually signed into your account to do this, you will be able to share that project. So please do share your project in the chat, or sorry, not in the chat, in the questions, or ping it on an email. Sorry, I've just seen a few questions come through, but I think they're more comments. I'll have a look at those in a second. Or ping it in an email to me. You wrote my email down, and if we get any coming through, I can share what you're making out there at home. So give it a go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through and show you how to access the Scratch file, because I can see a few of you missed that. So let me show you that again. So all you do is log in to, I'll go right from logging out here. So you log into Barefoot, and then from this page you scroll right down to the bottom and you click on attendance, and that is there. That is where you then put in unique code for today's session, 82940. You click submit, and that will take you to the page. So let me check if that answers.
John, can I just ask you there, could you just put the Scratch file, the URL, into the chat box, because it might be quicker as well?
Yeah,
just in case people are having problems. Is that right?
Yeah, no problem.
It's just quicker. Thank you.
Let's do that there. There you go. Let's have a look. Okay, I'm just going through, answering any question.
We're all fine. I've answered them all.
Yeah. Done that one. Done that one. Cool, yeah. So I'll just give you another couple of minutes to have a play with that, and see if anyone is able to share what they have created, either through the chat, sorry, questions, I keep saying chat, I mean questions, or emailing it into us. And then I will hopefully will have a chance to do one more of the activities, and then I'm also going to take the opportunity today to share with you some new Barefoot resources, and tell you how you can continue to engage with Barefoot after today's session. Oh, we've got one come through. God, that was quick, Natasha, and just pipped at the post there, Ruth. Ruth from Swinton. Well, it's not Ruth Swinton. Sorry, I live in Swinton. I'm talking to you from Swinton. So that was very quick. Natasha, you just beat Ruth there. Let's have a look what we've got here. I think, Natasha, have you signed into your account? I think you've just sent me my starter project back. Let's see if Ruth, we've got one from you. I should have said, by the way, there's bonus points here for good camel jokes. Okay, let's see what happens when I play yours, Ruth. Hello, do you want to hear something funny? How do you describe a grumpy camel? You say he's got the hump. Fantastic. Very good, Ruth. Love it. Super. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see if we've got any more. Stephen. Let's have a look what we've got here, Stephen. Sorry, Ruth, I should have probably looked at your code there. That would have been a bit more educational, but I just wanted to hear the joke. Here we go, Stephen. Let's have a look at yours. Hi, I'm a camel. Want to hear a joke? What do you call a camel with 3 humps? Pregnant. I love it, Stephen. Do you know what? I did this lesson with my pupils, and one of my pupils did exactly the same joke, and I wasn't sure whether or not to tell him off or not, but I decided against it. Very good, excellent joke. So thank you for that, sharing those. It's a classic, Stephen. Yes, it is a classic. Let's have a look at your code in here. Yeah, so nice sequence of commands, and that's, you know, it's as straightforward as that. And when we're doing sort of animations with linear sort of sequence of commands like this, we're looking at kind of year 3 level, I would say, sort of pupils moving on up from things like Scratch Junior, where they might have been introduced with things like repetition in year 2. But this is certainly sort of around that, and they might then be getting used to the new Scratch programming environment. But that's the kind of year group I would aim something like this at. Okay, right, so conscious of time, let's then have a look at their next construct. So Sarah, can you just double check? Can you see my whole screen presentation now?
I can.
Awesome. Okay, right, so we've done sequence. Let's just click onto here. And let's have a look now at repetition. So for repetition, our code reading activity is camels come dancing. And just before I share this with you, just to say a note to anyone who is unfamiliar with costumes in Scratch, a costume can be used to give a sprite, which is a character or an object that we're programming. We can give it a number of different appearances. So what we've done here to create our program is we've used costumes, and we have our camel striking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is it different dance moves? Everything from disco fever to camel handstands to splits. I won't try that one. To spinning. So here we go. Same as before, there will be a poll shortly. Can you match up the camel dance routines that you are seeing at the top, which is the output of our program, with the code underneath it? Note them down, and then I will give you the poll in a minute or so. So this is really, code reading activities like this are really great for developing pupils' logical reasoning skills. They're tracing through line by line, thinking through what it is that the sprite would do as it's executing each of those commands and matching it up with what they can actually see at the top. With this one, as we're introducing the idea of repetition, there are two different types of repetition block being used here, so you might be able to spot the difference. One of them is different to the other two, and that gives away which it might match to at the top. So, okay, here we go. Let's do the poll this morning for this one. So here we go. Repetition, code reading, matching. Launch the poll now. I can see all the votes flying in. Very quick on this one this morning, and very accurate, I must say, as well. Just give it another 5 seconds or so. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think we've got everyone. Okay, so let me share the results. Here they come. The vast majority did get that one right, and they identified that 1 was equal to C, and that's actually the one that I mentioned that was a bit different to the others, as it has a forever loop around it. So the camel here is on one of those dance-a-thons, going on and on forever. So that sequence we have within the forever loop, switch to looking left, wait 1 second, looking right, wait 1 second, disco fever, wait 1 second. It just repeats on and on and on. Then we had number 2 is equal to A. Let me just get rid of this poll so I can see from my end. We had number 2 is equal to A, and you can identify that partly by the difference in commands in there in the second portion, because on B it goes looking left, looking right, and then it goes into a repetition of split and spin, but A just switches to handstand and then repeats back over again when the program is played again. So well done to all of you again that got that one, and that's another example of a code reading activity. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to go the whole way through the code writing for repetition, as I want to take the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about algorithms and design and how we might do the design part for that task. So got a number of different options here just to show how design can take many different forms. So actually in the handout you will see that if we were going to go on to do the code writing activity for this, we've done it as a text algorithm with annotation. Well, this is our model here, so our example, with annotation on the repetition in there, and we ask you to write out your algorithm and then implement that as code. But we could do this in a number of different ways. There's no one fixed representation of an algorithm or design. So here we might choose to do it through pupils cutting out images of the camel in the different dance moves and lining those up, or perhaps drawing them out, or even, this is be a favorite of mine, one pupil actually acts out the dance moves themselves, comes up with a sequence of dance moves and does them, and then another pupil watches that and then turns that into code. So just have a think, coming away from this session, about the different ways that you could ask your pupils to create the design for their program. There's obviously benefits and drawbacks to each, and some pupils where perhaps writing it out, the barrier to engaging in that might be the writing of it, get them to do things in a different way. So we're removing that barrier for them. Okay, so I'm going to start to wrap things up, but show you how you can continue to go through the activities that we haven't had time for today. So just a reminder, on the Barefoot page that we went to, you can also have a go yourselves at doing the camel Camels Come Dancing code writing activity. And what we have done in that one, as I mentioned briefly before, is we've actually provided a dance routine, and pupils can start by exploring that, tinkering with it, modifying it to make their own routine from their algorithm. So that's another example of an approach. Rather than just giving people a blank scratch file, we wouldn't do that all the time in writing. Just give them a blank piece of paper. We provide them examples and models and let them modify them. So we're doing the same here. So just a reminder for everyone to get to that. If there's anyone that's still unsure, it was attendance at the bottom, and then we put in our code, which will still remain valid for you, 82940, and it takes us to that page. So please do have a go at that. The other activity on there is a Camels Conundrum one, where we look at the final construct of selection, which is all about controlling the flow in a program based on a condition being met. So if a condition is met, then something happens, else something else happens. So I remember writing this example when I think I was trying to be healthy dieting for my wedding. So the example I had was, if I'm trying to be healthy, then I'll have a salad, else I'll have a burger. So do have a look at that one as well. But just to finish with a couple of things and then leave some time for questions as well. Everything we've looked at today leads straight into our resources, Barefoot resources, and I'll show you how to access those. So things like, if you were able to do the sequence activity, we have our sequence activities such as fossil formation or Viking raid. All of our activities are cross-curricular, linking to other areas of the curriculum. The repetition one leads into our crystal flowers activity, which is a lovely art-based coding, programming activity. And what you would have gone on to make for the Camels Conundrum is a quiz based activity, such as our maths quiz one as well. So let me just show you where you will find those resources on the Barefoot website, as you have now all signed up to it. Oh, and I've just seen that a few of you have sent into my email your camel jokes, so we'll have to show those briefly as well. So in in Barefoot, if you go to home and then you go to lessons, you have a sort of filtering system on the left hand side, and you have all of our resources in here. These are our lesson resources, so essentially lesson plans for you to teach different areas of the curriculum. You can filter them on the left hand side by the activity type or the concept or the curriculum, depending on whether or not you're based in Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales or England, key stage, etc. We also have on here all of our online guides. So within here, if you go into any of these areas, so I want to learn a bit more about computational thinking concepts, for example, in here you can pick any one of these, and we've written a little bit of a guide about what it is, why it's important, and what it looks like in the primary curriculum. There really is loads of resources to support you in teaching computing. And finally, just to say, a big other side of Barefoot are the workshops. So this is a Barefoot workshop. You can get a Barefoot workshop either on computational thinking happening in your school or programming like this. Obviously at the moment they're online with the current situation. So all you have to do is go on here and click request a workshop. Okay, so I've got a few minutes left to share some of these camel jokes. I'm hoping that none of them are too rude. Let's have a look at this one from Gillian first of all.
Can I just interrupt there, please?
Yes,
just got a quick question. So lots of people have been asking how they can get hold of the PowerPoint, and I've just explained, but I'm sure you'll explain about they'll need to request a workshop from Barefoot Computing.
Yep, that's the best way to do it. If you request a workshop, and I've got the email address here. So what we would love is for anyone that's joined us this morning to share what they have accessed and learned this morning with staff in their school, and we can support you in doing that by providing you the videos that I mentioned, which I haven't used this morning, but they're videos basically of me inside Scratch explaining what it all does, the workshop slides, etc. So all you need to do is, and if I pop this email address in the chat, there you go. It's in there. Oh, thanks, Alan. Said the resources look absolutely brilliant. Really excited and looking forward to using these. Oh, you're welcome. So yeah, is that okay, Sarah? I'll pop that in the chat there for everyone to contact people.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. And the other question we had was the downloads that you used during this session. A couple of people have said, where can they access those? You know, for the camel chat.
The
yes.
These. So
yes.
they're in the handouts for for today. So in GoToWebinar, please do shout everyone if you haven't been able to get these. But on your menu on your GoToWebinar, it should say handouts, and there are 3 resources in there that you can download.
They are. We've got them.
Yeah. So let's just see. So Gillian's joke here. Hi, I'm Carl. Do you want to hear a joke? What is a camel's favourite nursery rhyme? Humpty Dumpty. Very good, Gillian. Excellent. Okay, I think we've got 2 more, and then I will finish. And if there's any other questions, please do shout, Sarah.
Nothing for now, but just a couple more of the jokes.
Okay, so we've got Dan, want to hear a joke? Is this the one? How do camels hide themselves? Camouflage. Yes, Dan. Excellent. And finally, we'll finish with Lisa's. So let's see what you came up with here, Lisa. Did it all drum roll? Oh, look at this. Okay. So, hello, how are you doing today? Want to hear a joke? Knock, knock. Who's there? Mustache. Mustache who? Mustache, my tea is ready. Look, brilliant, love it. Okay, super, thank you for that, Lisa. What a great one to finish on. Okay, so thank you everybody for, I've lost where I am now, joining me today. I'm going to pop this link to an evaluation form in the chat as well. There will be a separate evaluation for this session as part of the CAS Virtual Showcase, but if you can follow that and just spend a minute or so letting us know what you thought of the workshop, that would be much appreciated. And I've finished with about 5 seconds to spare, Sarah, I think.
Thank you for that. So everybody, thanks for joining us today. Thanks, John, for presenting. My personal highlights were, of course, the brilliant jokes, especially actually that laughing bit at the end on that last one. Really liked that addition. Please do share yours on social media and the CAS website, and also if you're not a member of the CAS Facebook groups, we have a primary and a secondary one. Would love to see you there. All other events that we do will be there. At the end of this webinar, a short survey will appear on the screen, and we'd be grateful if you could take a minute to complete that survey. Additionally, in about a week's time, you'll receive an email with a CPD certificate confirming your attendance at this session. A recording of this webinar will be available on the CAS website in the near future. Hope to see you at lots more of the other sessions in the showcase. Please do continue to spread the word on social media about the first ever CAS Virtual Showcase. Thanks for joining. I hope to see you next time.
Everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.